Last week, a riveting exchange between two members of the Senate Committee on the Judiciary stirred up a bunch of people in the media. You're probably already familiar with the story, so here's the short of it. The committee was about to vote on a piece of gun control legislation put forward by Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein of California. One of the committee's Republican members, Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, asked Senator Feinstein a question. And, well, this happened.
If I might pose a question to the senior senator from California, it seems to me that all of us should begin as our foundational document with the Constitution. And the Second Amendment in the Bill of Rights provides that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The term, the right of the people, when the framers included it in the Bill of Rights, they used it as a term of art. That same phrase, the right of the people, is found in the First Amendment, the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition their government for redress of grievances. It's also found in the Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. And
that I would pose to the senior senator from California is, would she deem it consistent with the Bill of Rights for Congress to engage in the same endeavor that we are contemplating doing with the Second Amendment in the context of the First or Fourth Amendment?
Namely, would she consider it constitutional for Congress to specify that the First Amendment shall apply only to the following books and shall not apply to the books that Congress has deemed outside the protection of the Bill of Rights? Likewise,
would she think that the Fourth Amendment's protection against searches and seizures could properly apply only to the following specified individuals and not to the individuals that Congress has deemed outside the protection of the Bill of Rights?
Senator, you have a question?
Let me just make a couple of points in response. One, I'm not a sixth grader. Senator, I've been on this committee for 20 years. It's fine you want to lecture me on the Constitution. I appreciate it. Just know I've been here for a long time. I've passed on a number of bills. I've studied the Constitution myself. I am reasonably well educated, and I thank you for the lecture. Incidentally, this does not prohibit, you use the word prohibit, it exempts 2,271 weapons. Isn't that enough for the people in the United States?
Now, that's not all that transpired between Senators Cruz and Feinstein. I'll show you the rest of their exchange shortly. But it's important to understand where Senator Cruz is coming from here. Ted Cruz was elected to the U.S. Senate last November. He has never before held elected office, at least not public office. He's a lawyer by occupation. He graduated magna cum laude from Harvard Law School in 1995, clerked for the late Chief Justice William H. Rehnquist, and then returned home to Texas to practice law. He's also served as Associate Deputy Attorney General in the U.S. Department of Justice, as Texas Solicitor General, and a professor of law at the University of Texas Law School. He's argued cases before the U.S. Supreme Court and authored more than 80 briefs to the Supreme Court alone. So when Ted Cruz speaks on a matter of constitutional law, he's speaking from a place of knowledge and experience. That's just the reality. You may not agree with him, but that is the reality. Unless, of course, you live in a fantasy world, or at least spend your time trying to perpetuate a fantasy, like most of the pundits and commentators on MSNBC. As evinced by, I'm lifting our embargo on footage from the Rachel Maddow show to bring you this clip.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask yet another question of the senior senator of California. I think nobody doubts her sincerity or her passion. And yet at the same time, I would note that she chose not to answer the question that I asked, which is, in her judgment, would it be consistent with the Constitution for Congress to specify which books are permitted and which books are not, and to use the specific
The answer is obvious, no.
Let the record show that you can be a United States Senator for 21 years. You can be 79 years old. You can be the chair of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and one of the most recognizable and most widely respected veteran public servants in your nation. But if you are female, while you are also all of those other things,
then
men who you defeat in argument will still respond to you by calling you hysterical and telling you to calm down. They will patronize you and say they admire your passion, sweetie. but that, of course, they only deal in facts, not your silly, girly, strong feelings. It is inescapable. You can set your watch by it.
Now, that was a continuous clip from the Rachel Maddow show. We did not edit anything out from the middle of that clip. What you saw, the footage of the Senate Judiciary Committee as included in that SOT, was exactly what Rachel Maddow's viewers saw and presumably what she saw. And we did not edit out anything in between the end of the footage of Senators Cruz and Feinstein and their back and forth and Rachel Maddow's reaction to that footage. What you saw was exactly as it appeared on the Rachel Maddow show last Thursday continuously. Notice that at no point during their back and forth did Senator Cruz call Senator Feinstein hysterical or tell her to calm down or call her sweetie or say that he admired her passion. He said no one doubts her sincerity or her passion, but that's not the same thing. And he just didn't say any of those other things. He didn't even imply them. I don't know where Rachel Maddow was getting that from. Notice also that she said that...
men who you defeat in argument.
Yeah, men who you defeat in argument. So I guess she thought, one, that they were having an argument, and two, that Senator Feinstein defeated Senator Cruz in that argument. I don't know what Rachel Maddow considers an argument, but I don't think that was an argument. Senator Cruz quoted the Constitution, asked Senator Feinstein a question. She spent a bunch of time avoiding giving him a direct answer and also getting a bit indignant and letting him know of her indignation. And then he reiterated or rephrased his question and finally got a direct answer from her. That's not really an argument. Also, to give you an idea of how petulant the producers of the Rachel Maddow show are, this is how they described that clip on their website. Look at the second part of that sentence, where it says, Rachel Maddow shares video from the Senate Judiciary Committee meeting today in which Senator Feinstein patiently dealt with the naivete of freshman Senator Ted Cruz before the committee passed an assault weapons ban. You can decide for yourselves whether that is an accurate or even a fair characterization of what took place at the Senate Judiciary Committee between Senators Cruz and Feinstein, but what else can you expect from a woman who plays a video for her audience and then says, let the record show, and then lists a bunch of things that just didn't happen, that the video does not show, and then follows it up with,
You can set your watch by it.
Yeah, I'm not going to be setting my watch to that. Incidentally, I got this watch as a Christmas gift, and I really like it. I haven't been wearing it that much, but I think I'm going to start wearing it more. It's a very nice watch, and I really like it. Nevertheless, as absurd and utterly ridiculous as some of Rachel Maddow's commentary about this exchange between Senators Cruz and Feinstein was, it got even worse. Because in the very next segment on her show that night, actually I don't know if it was the next segment, but it was later in the same show. I think it was the next segment. After spending all this time talking about the need for gun reform legislation and lionizing Dianne Feinstein as a champion of new gun control measures that will alleviate this problem of gun violence and all of that, something she's been doing for a while on her show. This is how she opened the next segment. Listen carefully to what she said.
When there is a problem in public life, when there is a problem in governance, people with political power have choices. They can ignore the problem, which usually means it gets worse. They can try to fix the problem, or they can use the problem. They can see the problem as an opportunity, something to exploit to accomplish some other thing. One way you can tell if politicians are choosing the third option, so they're not ignoring it, they're not fixing it, they're just using the problem for some other purpose. One way you can tell when politicians are doing that is when the thing they propose to do in response to the problem isn't going to fix the problem.
This isn't technically cognitive dissonance. I think there is something else at play here. I think there's another name for Rachel Maddow's apparent inability to apply that line of thinking that she just exhibited right there in that clip to this whole gun control debate and this need for gun control legislation, new gun reform, or whatever she's calling it, that she's been talking about and that other people on the network have been talking about. And if you think that that's wacky, then you should see what Loony Larry O'Donnell did. Of course, you can always count on him to be just, well, term criminally insane comes to mind, but here's what happened. Loony Larry made this exchange between Senators Cruz and Feinstein the subject of his rewrite section on his show last Thursday, and he spent much of the segment not talking about the substance of their exchange or even the very topic, but rather calling Senator Cruz a liar and repeatedly accusing him of lying because of something he said in a speech years ago about there being communists at Harvard. And he also characterized what Senator Cruz said as a lecture, so I guess now Rachel Maddow thinks that they were having an argument, and Larry O'Donnell thinks that he was giving a lecture. But anyway, just listen to what Loony Larry said about Senator Cruz.
He droned on in his lecture as if he was saying things that his senator students didn't know about the Constitution. Finally, the junior senator got to his question.
Okay, we've already seen all of this. Let's just skip to the end of the clip.
Have I mentioned that senators really hate being lectured to by professors of the obvious?
I'm not a sixth grader. Senator, I've been on this committee for 20 years. I was a mayor for 9 years. I walked in, I saw people shot. I've looked at bodies that have been shot with these weapons. I've seen the bullets that implode. In Sandy Hook, youngsters were dismembered. Look, there are other weapons. I've been up, I'm not a lawyer, but after 20 years, I've been up close and personal to the Constitution. I have great respect for it. This doesn't mean that weapons of war and the Heller decision clearly points out 3 exceptions, 2 of which are pertinent here. And so it's fine you want to lecture me on the Constitution. Isn't that enough for the people in the United States?
Mr.
Do
Chairman.
they need a bazooka? Do they need other high-powered weapons that military people use to kill in close combat? I don't think so. So I come from a different place than you do. I respect your views. I ask you to respect my views.
The right-wing liar didn't answer the question about whether he thinks people need bazookas.
Okay, you know what? This isn't really worth watching, but you get the idea. You can't really expect serious analysis from Loony Larry O'Donnell, but maybe there's hope. Let's try someone who's not completely delusional, Joe Scarborough. But just to make things interesting, instead of having him analyze this dust-up by himself, let's put him at a table full of idiots and have them jabber back and forth at each other. Wouldn't that be fun to watch? I don't care. We're going to watch it anyway. Shoot.
Okay. I've got a serious question here, John Heilman. This guy, what he is saying, the way he's framing his question, suggests complete, utter ignorance. I'm talking about Ted Cruz here, and I've brought this up before. Complete and utter ignorance, and anybody, conservative jurists, will agree with me. And they do. That when he goes on this line of attack about violating the Second Amendment, it suggests complete, utter ignorance of what the Second Amendment says, and what Scalia, Thomas, and the conservative court said in 2008 about what the Second Amendment is and what it is not. So, did Ted Cruz not go to law school? Has he ever been to law school?
I believe he went to Harvard Law School.
I don't know.
The law there?
Okay, first of all, that was not a serious question. And you know how I know it wasn't a serious question? Because it wasn't a serious question. And second, well, actually, to make my second point, I should probably preface it with this clip from later in the same segment. In fact, I think this is what followed immediately after that thing I just played you from Morning Joe.
Did they teach Ted Cruz to read what the Supreme Court said, especially in the landmark decision regarding Second Amendment rights over 200 years was written in 2008? Yeah. And I'm just wondering, why would he use his seat on the Judiciary Committee, if he went to Harvard, to put forward a willfully ignorant statement about this bill violating the Second Amendment? Because it does not. And
okay, Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz, would not have been taught about the Heller decision in law school in the early mid-90s when he attended law school, because, as Joe Scarborough is well aware, the Supreme Court's decision in D.C. v. Heller was rendered in 2008. But, of course, Ted Cruz is aware of the Heller decision, and nothing he said was inconsistent with the Heller decision. In fact, the question he posed was whether or not Congress could, consistent with the Constitution, pass a bill saying that the provisions of the First Amendment or the Fourth Amendment apply only to certain persons, not to everyone in the U.S., and her answer was
No.
right. She answered that question very clearly. But the issue before the court in Heller was not the issue raised by Senator Cruz. Can we put the language of the Heller decision up on the screen? Okay, this is from the court's decision in District of Columbia v. Heller. The issue is whether a District of Columbia prohibition on the possession of usable handguns in the home violates the Second Amendment. And the Supreme Court said, yes, that violates the Second Amendment. Now, we can explore the issues raised by this little exchange, the substantive constitutional issues raised by this little exchange between Senators Cruz and Feinstein, and I will do that in a separate video. This video is mainly about the media's reaction to what transpired, but I want to emphasize this. The issue that Ted Cruz raised, that he posed to Dianne Feinstein, was not before the court in Heller. Now, you could lean on dicta from Heller and the later decision in McDonald to try and come up with an answer, or to try and say how the Supreme Court might rule if Congress did try and craft a law like that proffered by Senator Cruz in the hypothetical he conceived. But to say that he is trying to misstate the law or perpetrate an ignorant misunderstanding is dishonest, totally detached from reality, because that's not what he was doing. That brings me to the final series of clips I want to show you. It's something also from Morning Joe, that same segment. This, I think, was my favorite. All the coverage of this had to be my favorite.
What he is saying, the way he's framing his question, suggests complete, utter ignorance. I'm talking about Ted Cruz here, and I've brought this up before. Complete and utter ignorance. It suggests complete, utter ignorance of what the Second Amendment says, and what Scalia, Thomas, and the conservative court said in 2008. A willfully ignorant statement about this bill violating this Second Amendment. A willfully ignorant position. I'm not saying that Ted Cruz's position is an ignorant position.
What can I add to that? I mean, when I see something like that, I just gotta make a video. I knew when I saw that this is just too good. I have to make a video about this. It's too good to pass up. So I will say, in fairness, that immediately after Joe Scarborough said that last thing about, I'm not saying that Ted Cruz's position is an ignorant position, he did qualify that by adding, it was hard to tell because he was mumbling or the audio wasn't very good, but it was something like, I'm not saying it's an ignorant position if you're making the argument that Congress shouldn't be allowed to regulate Bushmasters or high-capacity magazines, something like that. So he added some qualifier there at the end, so it technically wasn't a total contradiction of what he had been saying throughout the segment, calling Ted Cruz ignorant. But then he went on later in the segment to call Ted Cruz's argument, or what he was saying, ignorant a couple more times. So, look, we tried to find some intelligent commentary on this Cruz-Feinstein exchange on MSNBC. There was not any. We could not find any intelligent commentary on this matter, at least not on the substance of their exchange. So I will deal with the substance of what they were discussing in a separate video. But I think I've talked enough for this video. In the meantime, if you crave intelligent commentary on other topics, then please check out our blog, rightwinggenius.blogspot.com, and we'd love to have you follow us on Twitter, @rightwinggenius. Well, that'll do it for now, and until next time, don't mess with the right-wing genius, or Ted Cruz.